Imagine standing on a battlefield. I mean, the horns are blowing, the air's thick with dust, arrows are knocked, and a massive army is just charging right at you.
Yeah. And the absolute most logical thing to do in that moment is to just, brace yourself and fight.
Right. But what if the ultimate ancient guide to winning that war tells you that the real enemy isn't the army standing in front of you? Like, what if the actual war zone is entirely inside your own head?
I mean, it completely upends how we understand conflict, right? We are so conditioned to look for some external threat.
Like a difficult boss or, I don't know, a looming deadline, a physical obstacle.
Exactly. But the moment you look inward, the stakes become infinitely higher. The battle lines just become incredibly complex.
Welcome, you insanely curious learner, to another deep dive. Today, we are opening up a profoundly fascinating source. It is a translated text of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, specifically an edition published by Gita Press. And our mission for this deep dive is very intentional. We are going to extract the core nuggets of wisdom from this ancient text and try to understand how it functions not just as, like, a religious scripture, but as a deeply practical, universal guide to navigating duty, action, and just the sheer overwhelming weight of human existence.
And what stands out immediately in the source material is how it greets you.
Mhm.
You open the very first page, and instead of a list of strict commandments or some intimidating theology, there's this beautifully simple, deeply personal invocation.
Oh, yeah.
It translates roughly to, you are my mother, you are my father, you are my brother, you are my friend, you are knowledge, you are wealth, you are my everything.
Okay, let's unpack this because that tone is just incredibly striking. It feels like you are being welcomed by a wise, friendly guide rather than being lectured by some distant authority.
It really does.
And our goal today is to maintain that exact approachability. We want to pull out the specific, memorable mechanics of this philosophy without getting completely buried under heavy jargon. And to start, we actually have to talk about a massive misconception that the text itself calls out right in the introduction.
Right, the fear of the text itself.
Yeah, I found this highly relatable. The text points out that a lot of people are actually terrified to teach the Gita to their children.
Yeah, the pervasive cultural fear, which the text acknowledges head on, is that if a young person reads the Gita, they will suddenly abandon their modern life.
Right.
The worry is that they will leave their family, drop their career, and just run away to the mountains to become a wandering ascetic or a monk.
Which is such a funny universal parental fear, like, don't read too much philosophy, you'll move to a cave and I'll never get grandkids.
It is a common anxiety, definitely. But the text provides a sharp reality check here. It highlights the ultimate irony of that fear. I mean, think about the setting. The Gita was not spoken in a quiet, isolated monastery.
No, not at all.
It was spoken directly to Arjuna, who was a prince, a warrior, and a householder. And it was spoken right in the middle of that literal battlefield we just described, like moments before a catastrophic war.
That is the ultimate counter-argument.
Yeah.
Because Arjuna was the one who was looking at the carnage and saying, I want to run away. I want to go live in the forest on alms.
Exactly.
The entire text is a divine urging Arjuna not to run away. It's literally telling him, stay where you are, stand your ground, and perform your duty.
And the text emphasizes that engaging with this knowledge fundamentally alters how you exist in the world. There's this section called the Gita Mahatmya, which details the glory of the Gita. It presents a really fascinating contrast.
Oh, the water analogy, right.
Yeah, it says that bathing in water every day only cleans the physical dirt off your body. But taking a bath in the waters of the Gita's knowledge even once destroys the impurities of the worldly cycle.
I was trying to visualize that, and it feels like the difference between wiping down your computer screen with a microfiber cloth versus actually running a deep antivirus scan to fix the operating system.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Like one just changes how things look on the surface, but the other actually gets in there and fixes the internal mechanics.
What's fascinating here is that the text makes it clear this internal medicine, this antivirus scan, is available to everyone. It explicitly states that anyone, regardless of their social standing, their past actions, or whether they're a scholar or a laborer, has the right to this knowledge and can attain the highest goal.
So it's an entirely open invitation.
Completely.
So let's look at the actual virus, the fever we were trying to cure. Let's set the scene from chapter 1. Arjuna is standing in his chariot between these two massive armies, but he's entirely paralyzed.
Yeah, he's just frozen.
He's overcome by grief and delusion because he looks across the battlefield and he doesn't just see anonymous enemies, he sees his own relatives.
His teachers, his family.
Yeah, his childhood teachers, his friends, his uncles on the opposing side. He actually drops his weapons. He is convinced that fighting this war, even though it's his duty as a warrior to uphold justice, will lead to hell and the total destruction of his society.
He is experiencing profound moral paralysis.
Yeah.
I mean, he is trapped by his attachments to these physical forms, these specific people. And the immediate response from the text as we move into chapter 2 cuts right through that paralysis.
How does it do that?
By introducing a radical shift in perspective, it introduces the concept of the Atma, the immortal soul versus the physical body.
Right. The text states that the physical body is completely temporary, but the soul is indestructible.
And it goes much deeper than just saying the soul lives forever. The text makes a radical claim about identity itself that says the soul is never born and it never dies.
Okay.
It cannot be burned by fire. It cannot be cut by weapons. It neither kills nor is killed. It is trying to force Arjuna to stop identifying with the temporary, fragile, physical bodies standing on the battlefield and to recognize the eternal, unchanging reality underneath it all.
It's sort of like looking at the ocean and being terrified that a specific wave is crashing, completely forgetting that the water itself isn't going anywhere.
That's a great image.
And from that realization, the text presents two main paths to actually reach that eternal reality. It outlines Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga.
Yes. So Sankhya Yoga is essentially the path of knowledge and renunciation. It involves realizing that everything physical is an illusion or Maya, and basically withdrawing your senses from the world to focus purely on that absolute knowledge.
And Karma Yoga.
Karma Yoga, on the other hand, is the path of action in the world.
But the text makes a very specific practical recommendation here, which actually surprised me.
It explicitly recommends Karma Yoga as the superior and much more realistic path for the vast majority of people.
Really? Why is that?
Well, the logic is wonderfully pragmatic. The text points out that it is physically impossible to completely renounce action while you are inhabiting a human body. Breathing is an action.
Right.
Digesting food is an action. Your heart beating is an action. You literally cannot escape doing things.
So if we are trapped in a world where action is mandatory, how does Karma Yoga solve the problem?
Instead of asking you to renounce the action itself, Karma Yoga asks you to renounce the attachment to the outcome of the action. You do your duty. You perform the work with everything you have, but you let go of your desperate, anxious grip on the fruit of that work.
Okay, I have to step in and push back on behalf of the learner here, because practically speaking, in our modern world, how can you possibly do a good job if you genuinely don't care about the results?
Wow.
Like if I don't care about getting the promotion, or if I don't care if the company I'm building succeeds or goes bankrupt, why wouldn't I just slack off? Doesn't this kind of detachment inevitably lead to apathy?
This raises an important question, and it is arguably the most dangerous misunderstanding of Karma Yoga. But the text anticipates this entirely.
Oh, it does.
Yes, it makes a crucial distinction. Detachment does not mean a lack of effort. It introduces a core concept called samatva, which translates to equanimity or evenness of mind.
Samatva. Okay, so how does evenness of mind prevent apathy?
Let's apply samatva to an everyday modern scenario. Imagine you have to pitch a massive, high-stakes project to your boss. Karma Yoga demands that you act with absolute full dedication. You prepare the best slides, you rehearse, you put 100% of your creative energy into the task. You care deeply about the quality of the work.
Okay, I'm with you.
But the moment the pitch is over, you remain mentally balanced. If they love it and give you a raise, you do not let the victory inflate your ego into arrogance. If they hate it and tear it apart, you do not let the defeat crush your self-worth into a spiral of doubt.
So you are basically untangling your internal self-worth from external uncontrollable variables.
Precisely. In fact, the text explicitly defines yoga as this very balance. It states, yoga is skill in action. It is the profound psychological skill of maintaining your internal peace, regardless of the external chaos.
Skill in action. I love that phrasing. But, if Karma Yoga asks us to act without attachment, the obvious logical question is, why are we so terribly attached in the first place? Like, what is the invisible mechanism that is pulling our strings and making us obsess over outcomes?
That is the perfect transition into one of the most fascinating frameworks in the source material. The text explains our attachment through the concept of the three gunas, or the qualities of material nature.
Goodness. The source material describes them almost like the fundamental physics of human behavior.
They really are the underlying forces of all physical reality. The three gunas are sattva, which represents purity, light, and harmony. Then there's rajas, which is passion, activity, and restlessness. And finally, tamas, which is ignorance, darkness, and heavy inertia.
Okay.
Every single thing in the physical universe, including our own minds, is a fluctuating mixture of these three forces.
To make this grounded, let's think about it like the mechanics of a moving car.
Okay.
Tamas is the heavy inertia pulling you to a dead stop. The brakes, the heavy metal. Rajas is the combustible engine. It's the explosions driving you erratically and aggressively forward. And sattva is the steering wheel, providing the harmony, clarity, and direction to stay on the road.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. And what makes this text so remarkable is that it doesn't leave the gunas as abstract philosophy. It applies them to the most granular aspects of daily life.
Yes. The section on food blew my mind. It literally breaks down our diet through the lens of these physics. For example, the text explicitly lists rajasic foods as being bitter, sour, salty, overly hot, pungent, and dry. And it warns that consuming these foods causes pain, grief, and disease.
It is essentially an ancient acknowledgement of the gut-brain connection. If you are fueling your body with highly stimulating, aggressive fuel like, say, a massive order of overly spicy, salty, deep-fried takeout, you are literally feeding the rajasic engine in your mind. You are generating physiological restlessness and anxiety.
And it extends directly from what we eat to how we act, right? The text outlines how these forces dictate our behavior.
Exactly. Think about tamasic action. Action driven by tamas is done under delusion. It is acting blindly, completely ignoring the consequences, ignoring the harm it might cause others, or doing things lazily without the proper method. It's destructive, heavy action.
And rajasic action would be the passionate, greedy action, like doing something purely because you want the glory or the money or the status.
Yes, it is action driven by intense desire and ego. Now, contrast both of those with sattvic action. Sattvic actions are performed purely out of a sense of duty, without ego, and without any desperate attachment to the outcome. It's doing the right thing, cleanly and harmoniously, simply because it is the right thing to do.
So the goal is to just be purely sattvic all the time, to just be the steering wheel.
Actually, no. That is the ultimate trap.
Wait, really?
Yes, even sattva, as pure and harmonious as it is still a guna. It is still a rope that binds the immortal soul to the physical body. You can become attached to your own goodness or your own sense of peace.
Oh, wow.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the ultimate goal is to become a gunatita, a person who has completely transcended all three of these qualities.
Transcending all of them. What does a person who has transcended the physics of reality even look like?
Well, a gunatita remains totally indifferent to honor and dishonor. They are the same to a friend as they are to an enemy. The text uses an incredibly striking image to describe them. It says they treat a clod of dirt, a stone, and a piece of gold with equal vision.
Equal vision.
Because they see the eternal reality. The atma beneath the temporary physical forms, gold and dut hold the exact same fundamental value to them.
Okay, I have to pause there, because that is a staggeringly difficult concept. Treating gold and dirt the same. You don't just wake up on a random Tuesday, look at your bank account, look at a pile of mud, and genuinely feel they are equal. How does a normal human being actually achieve that level of psychological freedom?
They don't do it overnight. It requires a profound, systematic psychological unspooling. And the text provides the exact mechanism for how to do it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the text breaks down tyaga, which means renunciation or detachment, into 7 highly structured, actionable stages. I mean, it is a ladder. You can't just jump to the top. You have to climb it step by step. It's like a video game leveling system. You can't fight the final boss, which is ego, until you've cleared the basic tutorial levels.
Exactly.
Let's walk the learner through these stages quickly, because it shows the immense friction involved in letting go.
All right. The first rung on the ladder, stage 1, is giving up strictly forbidden acts. This means giving up stealing, lying, violence. It is the absolute baseline of moral behavior.
Which makes sense. You can't even begin to talk about advanced spiritual detachment if you are actively harming other people or breaking fundamental ethical codes. You have to clear the baseline first.
Right. Once you are acting ethically, you face stage 2 giving up actions done purely for selfish desires. Yeah. This is where the internal friction begins. You have to stop making every single action a transactional calculation. You stop asking, what's in it for me, before you do a favor or take on a task.
Right. And if you can manage that, you hit stage 3, which is giving up the thirst for worldly things like wealth, fame, and prestige. Notice it doesn't say you can't have wealth. You might be naturally successful, but you have to renounce the desperate internal thirst for it. You stop making the pursuit of prestige the center of your universe.
Which naturally leads to stage 4, giving up the desire to have others serve you for your own self-interest. Think about how difficult this is in leadership or even in relationships. You have to stop looking at other human beings as tools to achieve your own comfort or success. You stop demanding that the world cater to your ego.
That is a huge paradigm shift, seeing people as ends in themselves, not means to an end. Then we get to stage 5, which addresses a very specific danger. It's giving up laziness and the desire for outcomes in your daily mandatory duties.
This is a warning against spiritual bypassing. Sometimes people think being detached means they don't have to do the dishes or take care of their aging parents or show up for their shift. Stage 5 says you must perform your mundane daily duties without dragging your feet and without expecting a medal for doing what you're supposed to do anyway.
Then we hit stage 6. This is getting into the deep end. Giving up mindness. The text calls it mamata. It is the attachment to all worldly things.
How do you interpret mindness in a practical sense?
I think it's shifting from being an owner to being a custodian. You stop looking at your house, your car, or even your relationships and fiercely saying, "This is mine." You realize you were just a temporary custodian of these things for a short period of time. You loosen your grip and focus entirely on the broader divine reality.
And if you can master that custodian mindset, you finally reach stage 7, complete ego death. This is giving up even the subtle subconscious desire and the deeply ingrained feeling of, I am the doer.
How does one even conceptualize not being the doer? Like, if I'm speaking right now, I am doing it right.
It is the realization that you are merely an instrument. The universe or the divine is acting through the complex machinery of your body and mind. The gunas are interacting with the gunas. The moment you achieve stage 7, there is no you left to claim the credit for the victory, and no you left to suffer the blame for the defeat.
It is an incredibly sophisticated psychological framework. It acknowledges human nature perfectly. It knows that true detachment isn't a light switch you can just flip. It is a systematic, rigorous dismantling of the ego, layer by painful layer. You refine your ethics, then you refine your desires, then you refine your relationships, and finally you refine your very sense of self.
It's about finding ultimate freedom, not by avoiding the world, but by radically changing the mechanics of how you interact with it.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We've covered the immortal soul, the inescapable nature of action, the 3 forces driving us, and the 7 stages of letting go. If we synthesize all of this, the Gita isn't a manual for escapism. It's asking you to look clearly at the battlefield of your own life. It's telling you to stay exactly where you are, do your daily duties, understand the physical and mental forces, those gunas that are making you anxious, and slowly, stage by stage, begin to loosen your desperate grip on the outcomes.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final practical thought to mull over. We've talked extensively about how the root of our suffering is the agonizing gap between our expectations and reality. So consider tomorrow. Think of the single most stressful task on your agenda, that one email, that difficult conversation, that complex project that fills you with dread. What would happen if you approached it purely with the attitude of karma yoga? What if you poured 100% of your energy, your intellect, and your focus into the doing of that task, and then completely radically surrendered your need to control the result? Would the quality of your work actually suffer? Or would you, perhaps for the first time, experience profound peace while in the middle of a war zone?
Because in the end, the real battlefield isn't the office, and it isn't the opponent sitting across from you. The real war zone is the one inside your own head. And maybe skill in action is the only true way to win it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and above all, stay curious.